Events are moving rapidly towards a massive IDF ground operation in the Gaza Strip with up to 5 divisions. And behind the scenes, indirect contacts with Hamas continue in an attempt to bring it back to the negotiating table under Witkoff framework, but Israel is preparing to take further military action if these backchannel negotiations do not produce the desired results. So far, the military pressure on Hamas has not motivated it to resume the talks. This is despite an operation in the last 24 hours that left Hamas's flagship asset in ashes. We'll tell you about how the IDF and the Shin Bet struck more than 100 Hamas terrorist pickup trucks in a matter of minutes. These are the same pickups that we saw driving in convoys during the release of our hostages and which Hamas used to kidnap our people into Gaza on October 7th. Hamas also issued a warning to the residents of the Gaza Strip not to use military vehicles following the Air Force strikes in which the pickups were destroyed. Aside from that, the only response that Hamas gave to the loss of these strategic assets was to launch 3 rockets, which were all intercepted in the skies over Gaza without even entering the Israeli airspace. There were also several fatalities in the Gaza Strip over the past 24 hours, including a Hamas terrorist who worked with Al Jazeera. But these weren't the only problems that Hamas had this week. Egypt has also threatened to deport Palestinian security prisoners that they've been hosting because literally no one else anywhere is willing to do so if Hamas does not agree to a new deal. Hamas responded to this Egyptian ultimatum by saying that they've got a better idea and laid out some new conditions for a deal that they'll be willing to consider agreeing to. And of course, Hamas has one more card to play, and that's the hostages that they're still holding in the Gaza Strip. In another example of cruel psychological warfare that they're playing against Israel and the Israeli society at large, they released a video on Monday showing signs of life from Elkanah Buchbut and Yosef Chaim Ohana, saying in the strikes we saw death before our eyes. In a related story, in the last 24 hours, sirens were activated across the country of Israel following launches of a ballistic missile from Yemen. And at the same time, reports are coming in Arab media about a dramatic elimination in Yemen that threw the Houthis into confusion. In the northern arena, the Lebanese army has closed down 6 illegal border crossings with Syria, and the commander of the anti-tank unit was eliminated in an Israeli strike, adding more layers to Hezbollah's difficulties and humiliation. At the same time, Israel has continued to hit strategic weapon stockpiles left behind by the Assad regime at various military bases all across Syria. And further afield, the Ayatollah regime in Iran has lost a major source of income due to the betrayal of one of their most dependable allies. We'll tell you about the way Iran exploits the weaknesses of its neighboring Iraqi country to try and circumvent the sanctions. We have a lot to talk about today, so let's dive into the details. I'm Yair Pinto, and this is your Boots on the Ground report about what is happening in Israel on day 536 of the war with Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis in Yemen, the Shiite militias in Iraq, and all of the other armed groups in this region, if it's Syria or Palestinian groups in Judea and Samaria. All of them are taking their orders from Iran's Revolutionary Guards Corps, which is the head of the axis of evil in this region. And a moment before we begin, I'd like to invite you to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, so that you remain tuned to the truth in real time and never miss another episode of Boots on the Ground. Here at TBN Israel, we're in the middle of a campaign to rebuild the country of Israel. So if you want to be part of this renewal, join the Rebuild Israel campaign. Visit the address on the screen and help Israel. Israel's intelligence and security echelons are reportedly pleased with the opening strike on Hamas positions in the Gaza Strip last week, during which dozens of terrorists were eliminated based on an intel count only. Right after the start of the operation, the Air Force simultaneously attacked numerous concentrations of terrorists. The assessment is that Hamas is being shaken and is now trying to reorganize including in familiar locations such as school complexes. There, they hide behind the civilian population, repeating a tactic that they have used over and over again. But it's hard to hide pickup trucks behind human shields, right? So on Monday, the Air Force of Israel hit a large concentration, and over 100 white Toyota pickup trucks that Hamas has been using for various terrorist activities over the past years were hit. This included their notorious parades, but also transporting kidnapping Israelis into the Gaza Strip on October 7. Do you remember these trucks? These trucks are not just useful on the physical battlefield, they're also a symbol and a status in the terrorist world. This pickup truck is recognized globally as the preferred vehicle for use on the battlefields of Afghanistan and all over Africa and beyond. So, for Hamas to lose so many to an Israeli airstrike in such a dramatic fashion is very embarrassing for them, as well as presenting them with a tactical problem. Their forces will be much less mobile now and less able to strike IDF forces. This concentration of vehicles was only one target that the IDF struck in Gaza over the last 24 hours. Overnight, between Monday and Tuesday, another Hamas terrorist was eliminated in a precise airstrike. His name was Nidal Barhoum, and he was the latest Hamas prime minister, having replaced Ismail Barhoum, who was eliminated in an airstrike just a few days ago. Several other Hamas operatives were eliminated in strikes overnight on Monday. And moreover, additional IDF divisions are surrounding the Gaza Strip, preparing and refreshing orders, waiting for the order to move in. Currently, the ground forces that are inside Gaza are deployed in static positions to control key areas. They are not actively maneuvering against Hamas. And according to our report on Monday in the Wall Street Journal media portal, the planned deployment of 5 IDF ground divisions into the Strip is part of a new war plan that is necessary because Hamas must be defeated on the battlefield before any political solution for Gaza's fate can be advanced. And last Friday, Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz announced that he instructed the IDF to seize additional territory in the Gaza Strip, adding that the more Hamas continues in its refusal to release the hostages, the more territory it will lose that will be annexed into Israel. Katz further added, "We will intensify the fighting with blows from the air, the sea, and the land, and by expanding the ground maneuver until the hostages are released and Hamas is defeated, using every military and civilian pressure that we have, including moving the Gazan population to the south and implementing President Trump's voluntary relocation plan for Gazan residents." Here at TBN Israel, we will continue to report on every military development in the Gaza Strip, and as always, we ask you to help us by sharing our videos on YouTube, following us on social media, and above all, subscribing to this YouTube channel. These are the ways that you can help us grow the channel and reach more people with the truth. And if you want to help us create more videos like this one, please visit www.tbnisrael.com/give. Now, we shift our focus to the diplomatic front, as in parallel with the military effort against Hamas, the diplomats are also hard at work trying to convince Hamas that the time has come for them to release the remaining hostages. According to our report on Monday morning by the AP news agency, Egypt has presented the Hamas terrorist organization with a new proposal for the continued hostage deal. According to the new Egyptian proposal, Hamas would release 5 living hostages, including the American-Israeli soldier Idan Alexander, in exchange for 100 Palestinian security prisoners, terrorists, that are being held in Israel. According to this plan, the IDF would also allow humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip, and there would be a halt in fighting for 1 week. According to the report, a senior figure in the terrorist organization claimed that Hamas responded positively to this proposal. However, Israeli sources denied that any proposal was conveyed by Egypt. And against the backdrop of the deadlock in the talks, Israel said that the IDF is likely to escalate and move on to the next stage of fighting in the Gaza Strip in a very short time. The Gazan residents, a sizable portion of whom are Hamas supporters, are already paying the price for Hamas's refusal. Residents of the Gaza Strip say that after the ceasefire agreement, they regained a little bit of their self-confidence and assumed that the war was on its way to ending. But now, they have been shaken anew, especially those who returned to their destroyed homes in the northern part of Gaza. They will now have to vacate them once more and head south. Hardships continue to strike Gaza residents, and the massive bombing by the Israeli Air Force affects them because Hamas terrorists hide amongst the civilian population, using them as human shields. This is something that they do all the time. And meanwhile, the United States President Donald Trump has emerged as a true friend of Israel, and the Palestinian rage at him is enormous. He is seeking a solution for the Gaza Strip for the day after the war, including a plan to immigrate most of the Strip's residents. In public, these residents denounced the plan as cynical and deeming to the point of mockery. But we see many of them leaving the Strip if they can, so maybe they're not as outraged by the plan and the idea as they're saying that they are in front of international media. In related news, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spoke with United States Secretary of State Marco Rubio this week in light of Israel's renewed strikes and fighting in the Gaza Strip and the negotiations for the hostages' release. The conversation also took place in light of the ongoing American action against the Houthis in Yemen. A statement from the United States State Department said that the Secretary of State spoke with Netanyahu to emphasize the United States' support for Israel. Rubio discussed Israel's ongoing combat operations in Gaza and efforts to facilitate the release of the hostages and bring them home to Israel. In addition, he conveyed the administration's determination to restore freedom of navigation in the Red Sea through military operations against the Iranian-backed Houthi. According to the political sources in Israel, Israel has not closed the door on negotiations and is willing to conduct talks with Hamas through mediators on the Witkoff framework before launching a large-scale offensive in the Gaza Strip. But the clock is ticking, and Hamas has a narrowing window of opportunity to avoid total annihilation. Guys, here at TBN Israel, we will continue to report on what is happening in regards to the situation in the Gaza Strip. So please share and follow us. Take a moment to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, so that you remain tuned to the truth in real time and never miss another episode of Boots on the Ground. And the most important thing that you can do is pray for the peace of Jerusalem, the city right behind me. We here at TBN Israel know that America has always supported Israel, and now we want to give back. That's why we're partnering with AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens, to offer you a free one-year membership. AMAC is a strong voice for faith, family, and freedom. And as a member, you'll enjoy exclusive benefits including AMAC magazine, discounts on travel and insurance, financial planning, and other resources, and more. It's our way of saying thank you for standing with Israel. So don't wait, claim your free AMAC membership now at tbn.org/AMAC. Now, back to the news, and we're switching our focus to the northern arena, where the IDF has eliminated the commander of Hezbollah's anti-tank unit in Lebanon. According to sources, Hassan Khalawi, also known as Haj Usma, served as the commander of Hezbollah's anti-tank unit, which was responsible for destroying dozens of structures in Israeli border communities over the past year and a half by firing anti-tank missiles at point blank from the Lebanese side of the border to Israel. On Saturday, rockets were launched from that same region in the Nabatea Governorate to Israel. Lebanese media reported shortly after midnight about a strike by an Israeli UAV, an unmanned aerial vehicle, in a village of the southern area facing the Galilee in North Israel. Then, on Monday, the IDF carried out extensive strikes in southern Lebanon and the Bekaa Valley, which included at least 22 targets, amongst them Hezbollah headquarters, launchers, weapons depots, and other terror infrastructures. And according to reports, several Hezbollah operatives were eliminated in multiple strikes. Hezbollah's troubles continued on Sunday when the Lebanese National Army announced the closure of 6 illegal border crossings in the country's north and east as part of what it calls a struggle against infiltration and smuggling. Lebanese Foreign Minister Youssef Raji recently stated, "We need to remind everyone who was responsible for the massive destructions and who caused all the loss of life," adding that the Lebanese people want to live in a normal state, like all other states. In normal state, only the state of Lebanon has weapons. However, it is now appointment season in Lebanon, and in the country of Lebanon, everything is conducted according to a sectarian division, with certain positions reserved for the Shiites that are associated with Iran and Hezbollah. Hezbollah has not completely lost its political power, and it continues to operate in all spheres, attempting to regain the status it lost in the state of Lebanon. Here at TBN Israel, we will continue to update you on all the developments in the Lebanese-Syrian sectors. And now, we will move on to the front with the Revolutionary Guards Corps in Iran. But before we continue, I want to remind you that we are in a war of good versus evil in this world, and now is the time to unite for the truth. It's important that you take part and support our work, and the best way for you to do that is basically share these videos. There is a battle for truth. People need to know what's happening here in Israel and in this region, because whatever happens in the Middle East does not stay in the Middle East. So please click the subscribe button and help us reach more people. Now, let's take a look at how the Revolutionary Guards in Iran operate as a terrorist organization. On Monday, Iraq's oil minister, Hayyan Abdel Ghani, gave an interview with local media portals that was quoted by the Reuters news agency, in which he accused Iran of using forged Iraqi documents to smuggle oil. When asked if he had received messages from the United States regarding the possibility of imposing sanctions on Iran's oil agency due to violations of the sanctions imposed as part of the maximum pressure regime, the minister replied, "We were asked about tankers seized by the United States Navy that carried Iraqi documents. I responded that these are Iranian tankers using forgeries." He continued and explained, "It later turned out that these documents were forged. The Iranian official responsible for the oil tankers forged the documents in order to sell oil to international companies as Iraqi oil." The Iraqi minister revealed that Iraqi officials approached the United States to clarify the details of this incident and that Iraq has no connection to it. According to him, the United States accepted Iraq's explanation and any involvement in the affair. We must also remember that after the Trump administration threatened to impose sanctions on Iraq if it did not cut off its trade and energy ties with Iran. Saudi-owned news portal El Arabiya reported on Sunday evening that Iraq's oil minister, Hayyan Abdel Ghani, has revealed secret talks held between Iraq and the United States on the subject of document forgery in Iranian oil deals. According to the report, these talks come against the backdrop of accusations that were recently revealed at Iraq, claiming it assisted Iran in bypassing United States sanctions imposed on it by the participation in the sale of Iranian oil as Iraqi oil. Iraq recalled benefits from sanctions waiver regarding the trade relations with Iran. This waiver is now in jeopardy. This is following the Trump administration's policy change as part of the attempt to apply maximum pressure on Tehran to reach a nuclear agreement with the United States. This event places Iraq in a problematic position vis-a-vis the United States, which, as mentioned, is threatening to revoke the waiver Iraq received for its economic ties with Iran. So here at TBN Israel, we will continue to report on every development regarding Iran, and on that note, we switch our focus slightly to the Houthi sector in Yemen. Sirens sounded yesterday evening in many cities across Israel following the launch of a ballistic missile from Yemen. The IDF said that the missile was intercepted before it crossed into the Israeli airspace, and there were no reports of casualties or damage. Amidst the increasing American strikes in Yemen, the Saudi channel El Hadith reported on Tuesday morning about the dramatic elimination of one of the senior Houthi officials in Yemen. And according to the report by an Israeli journalist, so far the senior figure's name has not been published. However, the newspaper points out that a few days ago there were reports of the injury of a senior commander in the Houthis naval force. It was also reported that the Yemeni terrorist organization immediately closed off the area of the elimination and did not allow anyone to enter for many hours. Sources familiar with the details told the newspaper that the Houthis are in a state of confusion in their areas of control, given the escalation of coalition strikes by the Americans. The sources added that with the renewed strikes by the United States Air Force, all the Houthi leaders have gone underground, and the head of the organization, Abdul Malik al-Houthi, has forbidden them and their associates to carry mobile phones with them. We conclude today's report by taking a look at the cruel psychological games that Hamas is playing with the Israeli public. This includes the release on Monday afternoon of yet another video showing Israeli hostages criticizing the Israeli government for not securing their release. This time, it was Elkanah Buchbut and Yosef Chaim Ohana, who have been in Hamas captivity for 535 days alongside 57 other hostages in Gaza. In the video, they deliver lines that appear to have been dictated by their captives, Hamas. This is why we're not showing you the video, to avoid cooperating with the Hamas agenda. But nevertheless, the video and the statements were published at the family's requests, and our request to you is that you continue praying for these hostages that are kept by the cruel hands of Hamas, these terrorists who have lost all form of humanity. Pray for their families, the families of the hostages, that they remain strong. Pray hard for the speedy release of the hostages and for their return home. Pray for the IDF soldiers that are defending the country of Israel on multiple fronts, if they're fighting in the Gaza Strip, in Judea and Samaria, in Lebanon, in Syria, or in the skies against the Houthis. Pray for our leaders that they make wise and right decisions according to what God will lead them. Pray for the people of Israel, and most importantly, don't forget to pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And together, we will win this war because God is on our side.
Hello, this is Mati here in Jerusalem with TBN Israel.
This is Yair Pinto from TBN Israel here in Jerusalem. TBN Israel is keeping viewers informed with Israel-focused news, culture, and what God is doing in this land.
Support TBN Israel today online at tbn.org/Israel. Thank you.